यमुनातिरावनचारि जय राधा माधव बिहारी जय राधा माधव एवं विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रवचकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतशती श्रीमद् ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की एवं विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रवचकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतशती श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर श्री प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की नामचर श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की मथुरा धाम की गंगा माई की यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी की भक्ति देवी की समवेत भक्तवृंद की All glories to the Assembly Devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Assembly Devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Assembly Devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupada Krishna Prasthapatari Srimati Bhakti Vikasa Swami Trimani. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Canto 2, Chapter 9, text number 14. Okay. Shri Yatra Rupini Urugaya Padayoho Karoti Manam Bahudha Vibhuti Bihi Prenkham Shrita Ya Kushuma Karanugair Vigiyamana Priya Karma Gayati Shri Yatra Rupini Urgaya Padyoho Karoti Manam Bahudha Vibhuti Bihi Prenkham Shrita Kusuma Karanugair Vigiyamana Priya Karma Gayati Shri Yatra Rupinya Urgaya Padayoho Karoti Manam Bahudha Vibhuti Bihi Prenkham Shritaya Kushuma Karanugair Vigiyamana Priya Karma Gayati Shri Yatra Rupinya Urgaya Padayoho Karoti Manam Bahudha Vibhuti Bihi Prenkham Shritaya Kusuma Karanugair Vigayamana Priya Karma Gayati. Please repeat.
Priya Karma Gayati Shri Yacharupin Nurugaya Padayo Karoti Manam Mahuda Vibhuti Bihi Prenkham Shritaya Kusuma Sumakaranagai Prenam Shitaya Sumakaranagai Vigiyamana Priyakarma Gayati Vigiyamana Priyakarma Gayati Shri Yatra Rupin Yurudaya Bhadayaho Shri Yatra Rupin Yurudaya Bhadayaho Koroti Manam Buhuda Vibhuti Koroti Manam Buhuda Vibhuti Prinkam Shutaya Kushumam Karunanugaya Prinkam Shutaya Kusumakarangaya Vigiyamana Priyakarma Gayati Vigiyamana Priyakarma Gayati Shri Yatra Rupin Yurugaya Padayoho Shri Yatra Rupin Yurugaya Padayoho Kuroti Manam Baudha Vibhuti Kuroti Manam Baudha Vibhuti Prinkam Shitaya Kusumakarangaya Prinkam Shitaya Kusumakarangaya Vigiyamana Priyakarma Gayati Vigiyamana Priyakarma Gayati Shri Yatra Rupin Yurugaya Padayoho Shri Yatra Rupin Yurugaya Padayoho Karoti Manam Bahuda Vibhuti Karoti Manam Bahuda Vibhuti Prinkam Shitaya Kusumakarangaya Vigiyamana Priyakarma Gayati Vigiyamana Priyakarma Gayati.
Okay, Mataji's.
Shri Yatra Rupin Yurugaya Padayoho Karoti Manam Bahuda Vibhuti Prinkam Shitaya Kusumakarangaya Vigiyamana Priyakarma Gayati.
Okay, so sorry, oh, that's the wrong one here. I went on to 15. So, Shri, the goddess of fortune, Yatra, in the Vaikuntha planets, Rupini, in her transcendental form, Urugaya, the Lord, who is sung of by the great devotees, Padayoho, under the lotus feet of the Lord, Karoti, does, Manam, respectful services, Baudha, in diverse paraphernalia, Vibhuti Bihi, accompanied by her personal associates, Prinkam, movement of enjoyment, Shrita, taken shelter of, Ya, who, Kusumakara, spring, Anugaihi, by the black bees, Vigayamana, being followed by the songs, Priyakarma, activities of the dearmost, Gayati, singing. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The goddess of fortune in her transcendental form is engaged in the loving service of the Lord's lotus feet, and being moved by the black bees, flowers of spring, she is not only engaged in various variegated pleasures, service to the Lord along with her constant companions, but is also engaged in singing the glories of the Lord's activities. So next verse. So the darsha tatrakhila satvatam patim shriyapatim yagyapatim jagatpatim sunandananda prahalara hanadibihi swaparshada grihi parishe vitam vibhum. Translation: Lord Brahma, so in the Vaikuntha planets, the personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of all of the entire devotee community, the Lord of the goddess of fortune, the Lord of all sacrifices, and the Lord of the universe, and who is served by the foremost servitor like Nanda, Sunanda, Prabala, and Arhana, his immediate associates. Purport: when we speak of a king, it is naturally understood that the king is accompanied by the confidential associates, like his secretary, private secretary, aide-de-camp, ministers, and advisors. So also when we see the Lord, we see Him with His different energies, associates, confidential servitors, etc. So the Supreme Lord, who is the leader of all living entities, the Lord of all devotee sects, the Lord of all opulence, the Lord of sacrifice, and the enjoyer of everything in His entire creation, is not only the Supreme Person, but also is always surrounded by His immediate associates, all engaged in the loving transcendental service to the Lord. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshurinivitamena Tasmai Shri Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Bhutali Swayam Prabhakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shetapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Sagana Ragnathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savaditam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Visakhan Vitam Shahe Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Shri Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hemi Priya Panchakalpadarvishya Kripa Sindhubhya Vijay Patita Nam Pavnebhyo Vishnavibhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminite Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharya Nirvisesa Shunnavati Pachate Deshtarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jnanananda Mahindra Spatikakritam Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Hayagrivam Upasmahe. So, continuing the descriptions of the Vaikuntha as Krishna is revealing it unto Lord Brahma in this second canto here, that by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the knowledge of the spiritual world has descended upon Lord Brahma, who is the Acharya of our line, the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. And so here we see Lord Brahma being directly benedicted by the Lord to see the glories of the spiritual world, that which is unimaginable to any philosophers. We don't have that painting here, but you can see that famous painting in the Bhagavad Gita with all the mental speculators. They're trying to think, not like this, maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that. And Krishna, it's shown how He's above them all. And He's in His transcendental abode. And no matter how much they speculated, Pantashtakoti Shatavatsara Sampragamyo, Vayuratapu Manaso Muni Pungavanam. So, independent of how much the yogis try to meditate upon the Lord, without the mercy of the Lord, with their mental speculation, they cannot ever understand Him or the abode of Krishna. So it requires, I was speaking to this new boy that was here, speaking about how some modern science, and Prabhupada speaks about this in Science of Self-Realization, they cannot go beyond just the gross material material elements. They're not able to go beyond that. They can examine it and measure it, but beyond that, even the subtle energies they cannot understand. The subtle material energy they're not able to understand. They're not able to understand why feelings are created. They don't understand why a feeling is created by seeing a particular color or seeing the sky as blue. Why does that induce one to become happy? Or why does the gray clouds and the rain induce one to become sad sometimes? Why do emotions even exist? So they can explain it all like, they can see the mechanism going in the system perhaps. They can, this is going on in the system, but they don't know why it's going on. So the materialists, they cannot even come to the understanding of the subtle material energy, how the mind is working, how the intelligence is working, and what the false ego is. Because to them, that is their self. So they don't even see it as false ego. So they don't have a conception within this material world of even just what the subtle material energy is, what to speak of the spiritual energy of the Lord, which is very different, which is completely beyond the conception of material existence. So Lord Brahma, being the proper disciple to receive such knowledge, through his tapasya, through his devotional service in his tapasya. It's not that he just performed tapasya by itself. He was devoted to the Lord within his heart. Prabhupada makes the point many times that tapasya doesn't particularly give us the mercy of the Lord. And in that pastime where, who is it that prays, who's the father of Lord Rishabdev? Anybody remember? It's not Agnidhar, is it? That might be his son. So anyways, the father of Lord Rishabdev prayed like this to the Lord and performed austerities, but Prabhupada in the purports, it's not Vena. Vena is anyways, don't worry about it. So you can see Lord Rishabdev's father, I believe, prayed to the Lord for a son just like him. And he performed austerities, but Prabhupada makes the point in those purports that it wasn't the austerities per se that pleased the Lord. It was that the devotional attitude of the devotee that was able to please the Lord, which allowed for that mercy to flow. So Lord Brahma, although he underwent great austerity, it wasn't the austerity itself that gave him the ability or that allowed him to receive that mercy. It was that he had a devotional attitude towards knowing who Krishna is and what the the knowledge of the Lord. And as Prabhupada says here, the knowledge of the Lord doesn't just mean knowing Him only. Knowing Him, just Him, but it means that knowing His different energies, His servitors, associates, paraphernalia, such and such. These are non-different from the Lord. So Lord Brahma here is being revealed that which is inconceivable, that which is not seen and is not at all understood by any of the people bound up in the material world. Therefore, we see Lord Brahma's vision within Brahma Samhita. Brahma Samhita here, sorry, not Brahma. Sri Brahma Samhita. He begins this like this. Well, just before that, it says here that enlightened by the recollection of the Gayatri, embodying the three Vedas, Brahma became acquainted with the expansion of the ocean of truth. Then he worshipped Sri Krishna, the essence of all the Vedas, with this hymn. So how does he worship him? He worships Krishna by glorifying him. Chintamani prakara sadmasukalpa vriksha laksha vriteshu surabhira vipalayantam lakshmi sahasrasata sambhrahma sevimanam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. That I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desires in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. So what Krishna is revealed in the second canto, Brahma, he glorifies that. He doesn't make up his own spiritual world. You can see the correlation between what Krishna is revealed unto him, that is being described in Srimad Bhagavatam, and what Lord Brahma describes in the Brahma Samhita. So Lord Brahma, he is therefore a great Acharya because he has taken this knowledge from Krishna and he has revealed it more and more. Here, Srila Prabhupada is describing that, and in this verse, Chintamani prakara sadmasukalpa vriksha laksha vriteshu surabhira vipalayantam lakshmi sahasrasata. And so Lakshmi is thousands of goddess of fortunes. So the goddess of fortune in her transcendental form is engaged in the loving service of the Lord's lotus feet. And being moved by black bees, flowers of spring, she's not only engaged in variegated pleasures, service to the Lord along with her constant companions, but is also engaged in singing the glories of the Lord's activities. So as we've just read in Brahma Samhita, that so there is served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. So the purport, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments, by the word Chintamani is meant transcendental gem. Just as Maya builds this mundane universe with the 5 material elements, so the spiritual, Chit potency, has built the spiritual world of transcendental gems. The Chintamani, which serves as material in the building of abode of the Supreme Lord of Goloka, is a far rarer and more agreeable entity than the philosopher's stone. The purpose trees yields only the fruits of piety, wealth, fulfillment of desire and liberation, but the purpose tree in the abode of Krishna bestows innumerable fruits in the shape of checkered divine love. Kamadhenus, cows yielding the fulfillment of desire, give milk when they are milked. But the Kamadhenus of Goloka pour forth ocean of milk in the shape of the fountain of love, showering transcendental bliss that does away with the hunger and thirst of all pure devotees. The word Laksha and Sahasrashata signifies endless numbers. The word Sambhrama or Sadara indicates being saturated with love. Here Lakshmi denotes Gopi, Adipurusha, means he who is the primeval Lord. And so, who is that primeval Lord? Venum Kwanantam Aravinda Dalaya Taksham Bharavatansham Asitambuda Sundarangam Kandarbakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Each word is so, we can go up. Yeah. So this Venum, the flute, Kwanantam playing, Aravinda Dala, that lotus, like lotus petals, Ayata blooming, Aksham, whose eyes, Barha, a peacock's feather, Avatangsam, whose ornament on the head, Asita Ambuda, tinged of the hue of blue clouds, Sundara, beautiful, Angam, whose figure, Kandarpa of Cupid, Koti, millions, Kamaniya, charming, Vishesha, unique, Shobham, whose lovingness, Govinda, Adipurusham, the original person, Tam, him, Aham, I, Bhajami, worship. Who do we worship? I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, who's with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head bedecked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique lovingness charming millions of cupids. Who could describe such a thing? Who could make up such a thing? Who could go on and on glorifying, unless this is transcendental? Such a beautiful description of Krishna is there. One who holds the flute, whose eyes are like blooming like lotus petals, head bedecked with peacock's feather. His beauty is tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique lovingness charming millions of cupids. They conquer Cupid themselves. So, the beauty of Krishna is unmatched, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati comments here. The matchless beauty of Krishna, the Supreme Lord of Goloka, is being described. Krishna, the all-pervading cognition, has a spiritual form of his own. The form of Krishna is not fanciful creation of imagination formed after visualizing the beautiful things of the world. What Brahma saw in his ecstatic trance of pure devotion is being described. Krishna is engaged in playing upon his flute. That flute, by his enchanting musical sound, attracts the hearts of all living beings. Just as lotus petals produce a pleasant sight, so the beautiful eyes of Krishna, who causes the manifestation of our spiritual vision, display the unlimited splendor and beauty of his moon-like face. The lovingness that adorns his head with peacock feathers figures the corresponding feature of the spiritual beauty of Krishna. Just as a mass of blue clouds offers a specifically shooting pleasant view, the complexion of Krishna is analogously tinged with the spiritual dark blue color. The beauty and lovingness of Krishna is far more enchanting than that of Cupid multiplied a millionfold. So this is Krishna. This here is being the beautiful personality of Godhead is being described, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is very clear to note that this is not something that has been imagined by observing the beautiful things of the world. This is far beyond that. It is not just being made up by observing, oh yeah, that girl looks beautiful, therefore the Supreme Lord the God also must have eyes like that. It is not being made up with the mundane conception, but it is being revealed to Brahma. He's been with the eyes of devotion. What's that verse that comes later in the Brahma Samhita? Premanjana Churito Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadeva Hridesh Vilokayanti Yang Shama Sundara Machinda Guna Sarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Premanjana Churito Bhakti Vilochanena. So with the eyes of prema, then one can see. With the eyes of prema, we really want to see Krishna. We have to have the eyes, the proper vision. As Krishna reveals unto Arjuna, now I shall give you the proper eyes by which you can see. This is given by Krishna. As Lord Brahma also got it, as with his transcendental vision, with this salve of devotion, this eyes of devotion, he was able to observe Krishna, he was able to see Krishna, and then he was able to describe the beauty of Krishna, because it can be stunning. It can stunt one. Just like a deer, when played a flute becomes completely, it freezes up, cannot move. Similarly, when one sees the form of Krishna, the beauty of Krishna will completely capture one, and he will not be able to, just like sometimes we hear that, when will I chant the holy name and choke up and tears will fall down my eyes? When will this happen? So when one sees Krishna, it's not that it's like, okay, yes, I see him and now let me write it all down. That one becomes overwhelmed because of the beauty of Krishna. One becomes overwhelmed with the fact that, wow, here's my Supreme Lord, finally, that I have been waiting to see. And when one sees that, there is nothing else to see, there's nothing more to see anymore. And that, just like sometimes in this world, the beauty of someone more or less becomes, every day you see them, you see the same person, and that beauty fades, it becomes relative. Like you see someone very beautiful for the first time, it's like, wow, okay, this person is very beautiful. But then you see them day in, day out, day in, day out. And then over time, it's just like you stop noticing. It's like, okay, whatever. Those who are married know that the most. But in Krishna consciousness, if you look at the pictures behind us of Krishna, it's the same every day. It's the same every day. It's the same every day. But we are able to decorate him so beautifully every day and decorate Krishna in many different ways. We're able to see him every day. We don't get bored of seeing him. Oh my God, I have to see that same picture again. I have to see that same Krishna again. It doesn't get less beautiful every day. The beauty of Krishna does not become relative. It is stunning every time. It stunts one every time, that when he looks, oh wow, this is the most beautiful person in entire creation of all the material and spiritual worlds. He's the supreme person. He's the Adi Purusha. He is beauty personified. He's the source of all beauty. So, just as Lord Brahma is seeing Krishna, he's, you can imagine Lord Brahma seeing all of this. It's quite amazing. It's quite wonderful. This wonder, this appreciation, that rasa of seeing the transcendental abode of the Lord and the associates of the Lord. How pleasing that can be to one. Just like even for us, when we go away and we come back, and we just see the devotees of the Lord, it is so pleasing to the heart. It is so pleasing to the heart to come back and pay obeisance to the deity and see the devotees and hug the devotees and just be back in the atmosphere of the temple. It is so pleasing to the heart. So you can imagine having direct darshan, direct vision of the spiritual kingdom, the spiritual world, this Chintamani, which is Chintamani Dham, where it's filled with transcendental gems, the abode. So we can imagine, we don't have to imagine it, we can see it for ourselves. So we can see the Lord Brahma is in ecstasy actually describing this. It's not that he's just sitting there like sometimes you see you see the Brahmana sitting there reciting verses, writing verses. No, there is a great level of ecstasy that is being experienced by Lord Brahma while he is reciting this. It is for a pure devotee to describe such things, it can actually be very difficult also to write sometimes, because they're overwhelmed with ecstasy when they do so. So much so that you'll see in the pastimes of Krishna that they'll actually pray to Krishna to please stop this so I can continue writing. Please stop this so I can, I believe somewhere maybe that there's hopefully I'm not confusing this with something else, that the acharyas are writing and they write on palm leaves, or and they have to write with ink. So if they are filled with tears, that tears may stop them from writing. So the acharyas and our great line of Vaishnava acharyas or these great pure devotees, they also pray that, please Lord, don't let the ecstasy overcome my service, so that I may continue to describe your glories for the benefit of others. But they are completely overcome by ecstasy when they are describing this. Lord Brahma is completely in ecstasy. He is not, one of the great munis who's sitting there and going and just reciting like this. You can understand his devotional attitude towards this. You can understand his devotional mood, just the way he's describing this. Alola Chandra Kalasad Vanamali Vangsi Ratnangadam Pranay Kili Kala Vilasham Syamam Tribangam Lalita Niyata Prakasham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship that Govinda, the primeval Lord, around whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graced threefold bending form of Shyama Sundara is eternally manifest. Tribhanga, this Tribhanga Lalitam, that he is bent in three places gracefully. So Lord Brahma is in complete ecstasy describing and seeing this form of the Lord, just as you can see in the back over here in that painting. He's having direct darshan of the Tribhanga, the three bent form of the Lord, holding his beautiful foot, adorned with garland. So Lord Brahma is giving us a very amazing description, and one who wants to actually see this and understand this also has to be filled with the love, with the eyes of love of God. He should have love for Krishna. So when he reads this, he can actually see the Lord. In this shloka, beginning with Chintamani Prakara, the transcendental region and the spiritual name of Govinda in the shloka begins with Venum Konantam, the eternally beautiful form of Govinda. And in this shloka, the amorous pastimes of Govinda, the embodiment of his 64 excellences, have been described. All the spiritual affairs that come within the scope of description in the narration of ecstatic mellow quality rasa are included in the spiritual amorous sports of Govinda. So this is being described by Lord Brahma in his transcendental ecstasy. And he's seeing the goddess of fortune engaged in her transcendental form at the lotus feet of the Lord, being moved by the black bees, flowers of spring. She's not only engaged in variegated pleasures, service to the Lord along with the constant companions, but is also engaged in singing the glories of the Lord's activities. Sadatam kirtayantu mam, eternally glorifying the Lord. Nityam bhagavata sevaya, eternally serving the Srimad Bhagavatam. By what? By glorification. By hearing Shravanam Kirtanam. So even, Srimad Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam, Hridayantostohi Abhadrani, Vidunoti Shurtsatam. We don't just do it for the sake of just clearing out the material desires of the heart, but it is for the pleasure of the Lord, as the goddess of fortune herself always engages in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. She's eternally engaged in that. She's eternally engaged in glorifying the pastimes of the Lord, in singing his names. This does not stop in the material world. We should not have the misconception that we're only reading Srimad Bhagavatam and hearing these classes in order to get out of the material world. That is not our purpose. That is not a devotee's purpose at all. A devotee has no such desire to get out of the material world. His desire is to only serve the Lord, actually wherever it is, in the material world or the spiritual world. He goes on serving. And in that state, he attains his transcendental form even within this lifetime. Because that transcendental form of that spiritual body is uncovered by the service that is done. And even when one comes to that point of self-realization, it continues. So Prabhupada, in the next translation, is made the point that the Lord saw in the Vaikuntha planet as the personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of all entire devotee community, the Lord of Goddess of Fortune, the Lord of all sacrifices, and the Lord of universe, who is served by foremost servitors like Nanda, Sunanda, Prabhala, and Arana, his immediate associates. Can anyone think of a verse from Bhagavad Gita that describes that? Bhuktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. Vaikuntha, a place of no misery, a place of no anxiety. So what does it mean to be in Vaikuntha? It means to understand this, that the Lord is the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities. He is the Lord of all planets and demigods, and in the benefactor and the well-wishers of all living entities. And so Prabhupada, this is often famously known as the peace formula. Prabhupada says the greatest peace formula is simply this: the Lord is the beneficiary in all human activities. So when one understands this point, then he lives in Vaikuntha. Even he may be within the material world, but when he comes to this realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he is living in Vaikuntha. Then he is living in that spiritual world that is being described. So the descriptions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when we see the descriptions of Krishna, it is not just Krishna himself. That is Krishna and his associates, Krishna and his friends, Krishna and the cows, Krishna and the gopis, such and such and such. Krishna is never alone. Krishna is never alone. Krishna always is accompanied by his confidential associates. As Prabhupada comments, just as the king. He's always with his secretary, private secretary, aide-de-camp, ministers, advisors. So also when we see the Lord, we see him with his different energies, associates, confidential servitors, etc. So when we're seeing the Supreme Lord, we do not just see, oh, here is Krishna, let me serve him. No, we see his devotees. We acknowledge the different energies. We understand that, and the paraphernalias. We're not like the Mayavadis who don't acknowledge any of these things. We acknowledge all aspects of the Krishna's abode because they are non-different from him. So it requires a proper conception of the absolute truth to come to this point. So the Supreme Lord, who is the leader of all living entities, the Lord of all devotee sects, the Lord of all opulences, the Lord of sacrifices and enjoyer of everything in his entire creation, is not only the Supreme Person, but also is always surrounded by his immediate associates, all engaged in their transcendental loving service to him. He is not just someone that sits up on a chair by himself. Krishna is giving pleasure to the cows, giving pleasure, Govinda, and giving pleasure to his devotees. He is the person, the supreme. He says not only the Supreme Person, because Prabhupada mentions that here to not separate the two. He said not only the Supreme Person, but he's also always surrounded by his immediate associates. He's not just alone. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always in association of his intimate devotees. So if those intimate devotees are present somewhere, that means the Lord is also present there. This is a very important point. Wherever the devotees are, there is Krishna. Wherever this as it describes, wherever there's Sorry, that doesn't apply. I don't know why I thought about that. But wherever the devotees of Krishna are, that we can understand wherever the pure devotees of Krishna are, or those who are intending to be pure or trying to come to the platform of purity, we can understand that Krishna is present in that atmosphere. Krishna is present there. Because Krishna only goes where his devotees goes. That's why he stays in, often you'll hear, Krishna stays in Vrindavan. Why? Because his pure devotees are there. For his pure devotees, for the love of his devotees, that is all. There's nothing more to understand than that. Just for the love of his devotees. As we have in Vishnu Sahasranam, I forget which name it is. I think Guru Maharaj gave that name in that class here. Vishnu exists for the love of his devotees. To just love his devotees, that is all. Bhaktavatsala, but no, there's later on in the... Bhaktavatsala is there, but this is a different word comes. Bhaktavatsala is there, the one who is very dear to his devotees, but this particular name of... Shanta. So that is there, that he exists for the love of his devotees. He is there only to love his devotees. He is waiting for the devotee, the surrender of the devotee, to engage in that intimate relationship with him. So Lord Brahma is revealing some of these transcendental realm, the transcendental nature of Krishna, the transcendental activities of Krishna, the transcendental servitors of Krishna, Nanda, Sunanda, Prabhala, Arhana. We see in the Krishna Leela, we see Sudama, we see Madhumangal, we see all these sakhas, the friends of Krishna. So all this has been revealed by our great acharyas, and now through proper vision, just like Lord Brahma has been given proper vision, there is, as later in the 10th canto, Shukadeva Goswami will describe with proper vision all the different pastimes of the Lord. As you have read Krishna book, and then you can also see all of these pastimes that are going on. So we are lucky to come to be at this point of Krishna consciousness where we're able to have such ability to conceive of such a thing. It's quite difficult. So many people come and go. But they do not have the adhikar, the right for devotion. Shraddhavan jana hai bhakti adhikar. What is Shraddha? Faith. One has to have what kind of faith? Firm faith. Shraddhavan jana hai bhakti adhikar. His faith has to be firm. The faith may not be in Krishna in the beginning. The faith may just be in the devotees. That's where it starts. Sadhu Sangha, Shraddha, and then there's Sadhu Sangha. So one has some faith in the sadhu, some faith in the devotees. These people are nice people. I don't know if there is God and I don't understand Him for sure, but at least these people, they seem to be somewhat, know what's going on in life. They seem to know what's going on in life. That is faith. So that faith gives a rise for the ability for the sadhu to grant one within one's heart devotion. So just like Srila Prabhupada has done the same, or just like it is being mentioned before that Krishna enters within the hearts of the gopis through the ears. Similarly, the sadhu, through the ears of the materialists or those who are engaged in material activities, he gives them this devotion through their ears, and just by chanting the Hare Krishna in the streets, by speaking to them, he allows Krishna, he pushes Krishna into the hearts of the living entities. He makes that, how am I trying to say this? Sorry, I'm losing my words here. To the living entities, he gives that devotion within their hearts, just as we sing in the morning. How does that go? That Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito, that within the heart the spiritual master gives knowledge. He gives knowledge, that knowledge by which we can become detached from material life and become attached to Krishna. So that is what is being given to Brahma, is this attachment for Krishna. The revelation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His abode is being given to Lord Brahma. And so we can also come to that platform. We are coming close to coming to that platform because we have accepted the proper spiritual master. We've accepted the proper captain by which we can cross the ocean of nations. So if we continue in this point and we just work hard and surrender to the Lord in this way, Just day in, day out, chant your japa properly, chant your japa properly, chant your japa properly. Be conscious of what you're doing. Read Prabhupada's books, distribute Prabhupada's books. That's it. That's all it's required. Take prasadam, and there's nothing more to be done. Just as Lakshmi, she's simply just serving. There's nothing more for her to do. She's engaged in variegated pleasures. But this is just engaging in singing the glories of the Lord. That is her pleasure. Serving the Lord, that is a pleasure. So we're already there. We're already there. We just have to now make use of it and actually realize it. That's all. We're already there. We're serving the Lord. We just have to become conscious of what we're doing. We first become conscious how we're serving the Lord, why we're doing it. And this will help you become Krishna conscious. That we're serving Krishna. Oh, yes. So we're already there. We're already there on this point of serving the lotus feet of the Lord. We're serving the lotus feet of the spiritual master. We're singing the glories. We're engaged in decorating the Lord. We're engaged in doing all of these activities that goes on in the spiritual world. It's non-different. But we have to realize it. That is all that is required. And so if you realize it, everything will become very blissful, just as it's described. Every step is a dance and every word is a song in the spiritual world. So that is also going on here for us if we are in proper consciousness. So I'll end my class there. Thank you very much. Please forgive me if I've said anything out of line of the Guru Parampara. I beg for your forgiveness. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpadruva.